Thank you, Rodrigo. So, hello everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be here and share this presentation with all of you. I had the opportunity of being physically present in the Sitecore group many times, hang out with the people around there. I think it's been a while since my last presentation on this group, so I'm happy to be here once again. The topic presented would be ASP.NET Core and Headless Services. The purpose of this presentation is to give you an overview of Headless, to discuss, demonstrate, and review the latest technologies available for a developer to start a journey. We will have a quick demo and also some time, hope so, for questions and discussion at the end of the presentation. So before getting started, a few words about me. My name is José Neto. I'm currently a Sitecore developer at Nishtech. I've been working with the platform for the last 7 years, and I also try to help the community through my blog by sharing articles about daily problems faced by developers, marketers, and content authors. This year, I was also awarded Sitecore MVP 2022. I'm very happy about it. And every year, I also participate in the Sitecore Hackathon. And on the last one, we did a good contribution in the category Best Usage of Sitecore PowerShell. I recommend checking out our module. It contains useful features for content editors, and I'm looking forward for the upcoming Sitecore Hackathon.
We are the Go Horse team, José. Myself, you, and João Neto.
Exactly. It's been like it's been a lot of years that we are in this Sitecore Hackathon together. And once again, it will be a pleasure to be on Sitecore Hackathon with you guys.
Thank you.
So why ASP.NET Core? Firstly, ASP.NET Core is an open source and cross-platform framework. So you can easily host your web application in Windows or Linux. If you are a Linux enthusiast like me, you would probably try to explore this compatibility furthermore. It is lightweight and fast. And what is the advantage for Sitecore teams? Well, it is one of the ways of getting in touch and starting to use the Sitecore Headless services. If you're not familiar with the concept of a headless CMS, let's put this in a very simple way. What is a headless CMS? A headless CMS is a system where the content that's in the headless CMS, it is delivered via APIs. It's called headless because the presentation layer is separated. On this slide, we can see a clear separation between the Sitecore instance and the website. This separation in layers opens us to a range of new possibilities and ways to use of Sitecore content. On the right side of the slide, there is a watch consuming directly from Sitecore. So what's being consumed? The watch is consuming purely content from the CMS, but not wrapped inside the HTML. In this way, the presentation layer can be adapted exclusively for the watch. It doesn't necessarily have to be a website. The fact is we are seeing a proliferation of IoT devices like watches, smart speakers, and that requires headless CMS. So sooner or later, your customer actually will require you too. A couple years ago, we had the release of JavaScript SDK. This allowed the development of applications using the headless capability. And for all Sitecore community, it was very exciting. But for a very specific public, it was even better. I believe if you were a front-end developer in those days, you received the announcement with open arms. This was very good for front-end developers. It is easier for a team that is already working with React or Angular to start learning a little bit of Sitecore and consuming the headless services than it was for a backend developer. With the release of GSS, a few more technologies were introduced and layout service became available. Now the content and HTML are decoupled. It was possible to get the content in a JSON format. But headless is no longer only JavaScript. Sitecore 10 introduced the Sitecore Rendering SDK. The Rendering SDK is external to Sitecore and gives the capability of using the headless service in .NET Core. For Sitecore teams, it is another way of implementing headless websites. With the SDK, it's not mandatory the usage of front-end technologies. This alternative is available and gives more firepower for developers. For those already engaged in a daily usage of C#, but sometimes not a particular fan of Angular or React, like teams that in their souls, they are backend developers. They can, if they want, they can learn this technology, and it's a good way to start the development in .NET Core. It is important to remember that Sitecore is moving towards .NET Core as well. Sitecore is not a monolithic application for a while already, and there are pieces like Identity Server and Sitecore Horizon that are already on .NET Core. So let's talk a little bit on how this works. The Sitecore layout service, it is an endpoint that provides JSON formatted Sitecore content, right? So headless services gives you the capability of getting Sitecore pages in JSON format, even with the applied personalization. Basically, the user or the application will make a call to a REST API endpoint, and it will return a JSON with a lot of information, like the ID, page title, the content field, and any other fields that may have. Then your application will interpret and make this useful in the desired way. So let's review the parameters necessary to make a call to layout service. The first parameter, the item, the path to the item relative to the context site home item. The second, the SC lang, the language version of the item you wish to retrieve. In this case, I'm not using this parameter. The SC API key. The API key is a string that you previously configured. It is a Sitecore item with the key. The tracking parameter enables or disables the analytics tracking for the layout service, and the default is true. As you can see on the example, the layout service retrieves you an JSON result. There is also the config parameter, the name of the layout service configuration to use. In this case, it is called JSS. So this is a real example of return a JSON result. Let's dig a little bit. Check the field item name called home, followed by the text field with a lot of content on it. Then the field title, we can see here, Sitecore Experience Platform. We also have the field database name, web. It also contains the item ID. There is the item language. In this case, it is EN for English. And you also can see the template name. So here we can see the sample item, right? Here we have another example of a JSON file. Note that now we are seeing a formatted JSON file, which is easier to us to understand what is going on. We can see the item path, also the language, in this case, English. And below, let's check some fields. We can see the navigation title. It contains a property called value, and in the content, it is home, right? So check the header logo property. This is a Sitecore image field, and you can see the properties like SCR, the source, and we have the full URL of the image. And we also have the alternative text and also the width parameter 139. All this will be used in the data model and rendering in a page later on. In this slide, we can see a Hello World website in .NET Core. By looking into the list of files, we can identify new files and differences in the structure of the website compared to a regular .NET website. First, the www root folder. This folder contains the CSS and JS files. There's also the app settings.json. In this file, it's being configured the level of login of the application. We can see the runtime config. We can see the information about the version of the .NET Core. We can see also the web.config. It's a very small file compared to our regular web configs, right? Pointing to the main DLL of the project, which in this case, it is the hello world.dll. So by look for some characteristics, now I believe we can easily identify one website running on .NET Core. If you're familiar with the structure, and in case you have one Sitecore instance running on your local environment, you probably already have a website in .NET Core that's being used. In this example, we can see the identity server. It's already developed in .NET Core. By looking at the application pool, we already can spot the difference. The .NET CLR is selected, no managed code instead of 4.0. On the right side, on the image, we can see files that give us a hint that this website is running on .NET Core as well. And if we dig deeper on the web config, we will also see the line that points to the main DLL of the identity server, same standard that we saw previously on our Hello World. So the solution, it is important for all developers, and it will be used on a daily basis. How are we going to architect a solution inside Visual Studio? Well, the solution will contain code that's developed in .NET Core, and this code will be deployed on our .NET Core website. We can see this arrow in yellow. This code will contain the front-end layer of the website, but also the solution will contain the code developed in .NET Framework, and this code will be deployed in a Sitecore instance. So it is basically a mixed solution. We cannot forget the solution also contains Sitecore items, right? Like templates, renderings, and it is common for any Sitecore solution. And these will be normally deployed to our Sitecore instance as well. In this slide, we can see some real code in .NET Core using the Renderings SDK. The Renderings SDK. The SDK provides us some tag helpers. Those tag helpers will help us to render the Sitecore content. You can notice the syntax, it is a little bit different from what we used to do, but it is completely readable for a .NET developer. For instance, in order to render the title, we can see the usage of SC text ASP for title, and that in that place we render the title, right? For the usage of partial views, we can see the second tag helper being used. The code passes the model called contact. And on the right image, we can see the model binding in action. Check how the contact class is being mapped into Sitecore fields. Since the information is being transmitted over a JSON format, we can see the usage of a JSON property matching the field name. In this case, contact link. And below, we can see the contact image. We are using the JSON decorator there as well. In first Sitecore field, it is a hyperlink field, and the second, it is an image field. On this slide, we will explore a little bit more the tag helpers. The image on the left, we can see the implementation of a layout, a document that contains all the main placeholders for the page. It is possible to recognize the tag by name. It is the placeholder tag helper, right? And there we can see the header, the main, and the footer placeholder. On the image on the right, it shows us the implementation of a component. And on the first arrow, we can see the usage of SC link. It is the hyperlink tag helper. And just below the SC image, it is the image tag helper. So the experience editor, one of the features used constantly by you and also the marketers, it is the experience editor. So you might be wondering, now that I have two hosts basically, will the experience editor continue working? And the good news, yes, it will work. This scenario is covered by the SDK, and it will work. Content editing by the tool will not be affected. It is important to keep in mind that the front-end elements and the files are not in CM anymore. Therefore, Sitecore CM need to communicate to the rendering host server. There are configuration parameters that Sitecore will read, and it will know how to contact the rendering host. Basically, when you open the experience editor, the CM server performs a post to the headless services endpoint provided by the SDK, which will bring the HTML with the necessary elements to make the experience editor to work. So how this new implementation will look like? On our server, we will have the identity server. We have the XConnect. Also, we have our regular Sitecore instance. And now we will have another website. This will be the .NET Core website. This new website will be able to communicate with the Sitecore instance. In order to do that, you need to set up some configuration on the app settings.json. This file will contain fundamental parameters to enable this communication. So let's check some parameters. First, the instance URI is the URL of the Sitecore instance. The second, it is the layout service path. The other one will be the default site name. In this case, it is base key company. Also, we need the API key. And another one would be the enable experience editor. This will tell us if the rendering host will support the experience editor or not. If you can disable that if you want to. And finally, the rendering host URL. Now that we have a new website configured, we can clearly see a front end and a back end instance. The decoupled is pretty clear. Let's remember that the rendering host contains code in .NET Core, and it can be hosted by Windows or Linux servers. And how the front end communicates with the back end, it is through API calls. The front end website will make a call to the headless services, and that will provide the output in JSON format, and the page will be rendered to the user. In this image, we can see an X-ray of the layers. So let's understand how rendering host works. First, the visitor sends a request to the web server, which activates the rendering host web app. Then the layout service client fetches the relevant content and presentation data from the Sitecore Headless services. Then the layout service client passes the data model to the rendering engine, and then the Sitecore rendering engine renders the data model and your code and static resources into the final response and returns to the visitor. So with this slide shows you like the whole architecture. So try to keep in mind that, and you have the full understanding of how all this works. So how to get started? How to have a glimpse of that? First one would be using the Docker containers. It is the getting started template. Sitecore offers an example with the complete environment, CM, CD, hosts, everything is configured there. So every part of the infrastructure is basically already done for you. This way you can open the site easily without thinking too much about the infra. And your team can focus directly on .NET Core. The website contains some components and good examples, and that will help your team to understand what is necessary to start the development. The second example, it is the Sitecore MVP website. This is currently live, and if you apply to Sitecore MVP, you used this website as a user. It's also very useful resource since YouTube provide you examples on how to implement those components. And if you want to also contribute to the Sitecore MVP, the code is available there. There are a list of bugs and improvements that you can help and work on this website as well. And the third example would be this basic company, and this is the one that we'll be exploring today. So there are plenty of resources to help you and your team on this journey. And or you may prefer to reuse your current infrastructure and use an existing Sitecore instance. You can install the examples on this instance. This will allow you to learn how the setup works, but it will force you to get in touch with the configuration files as well, the deployment, SSL issues, and understand how the whole set works. But I would recommend you start by doing the easy mode, right? Using Sitecore containers. You run that, it will speed up, and you can easily have a glimpse of how the set works. So the first thing we'll need to do, it is to download one of the examples provided. And after downloading, we will extract the zip files, and then we're gonna run the PowerShell command provided there, which is the init. The second PowerShell script that we would run would be the up.ps1. This you run the Docker compose up plus a few other commands, and it will set up the container, but also push the Sitecore items and compile the binaries, rebuild the indexes, and publish the website. And it may take some time to do that. And you also see the Sitecore CLI in action here. And of course, you need to have all the Sitecore Docker installed previously, right? So if you're installing that, you have like a clean machine, and you just install Docker, and you just downloaded the example. Probably this is the first contact that you're having with .NET Core, and you may probably see this issue. This means that you basically don't have one fundamental dependencies, which is the .NET Core SDK. So on the top of the slide, you can take note of the URL, and in case you face this issue, you just need to download that and install it, and it will run. And well, after you run those PowerShell scripts, you wait some time, and then you see that you have some new hosts added to your host file, and it is basically those 4 URLs, right? So the first one, it is the CD server. Then we have the CM server, and we have the identity server. But now we have something different, which in this case, it is the rendering host. We discussed that previously. So if you paid attention, you understand that rendering host is doing. So on this slide, we run a PowerShell command in order to get the logs from the rendering host. So we saw in previous slides, when the visitor loads any page on the rendering host, we already know that this will trigger a call to Sitecore CD server. And we can follow this process by looking the rendering host logs. So here you can see in yellow the call that is being made, right? So we saw that call in the other slides, and it shows us the return of the JSON, right? So when you are monitoring this, the rendering host, and checking the logs, you will also be able to see this happening. So, and in case you have any other issues, you can check the logs, and the logs will tell you what's happening. And if you have an issue on the rendering host, maybe you're using like a license that you don't have the JSS support on that, and then you're gonna get like your license does not support these features. Then you need to get like the correct license. So the logs are a very important piece of information in case you have any issues. And then this will be the final result. You're gonna see the website. It's like normal website, and you're gonna see the URLs should be available. You should test the 4 of them. Probably all the 4 will open, and it means that your setup is complete and things are working. The first page is the home page, and on the right side we have the product list. You can navigate through and later check the implementation to better understand how things were implemented. And if you download the MVP website, the process is very similar. At the end, you'll be able to see the same website as the live MVP website. And I created a page called test just to make sure things were working. And you can see the link on the right corner of the menu. So after speaking so much without a break, let's do like a quick demo so we can, brief a little bit.
José,
And see.
just
Yeah,
a
and see
reminder that
this.
you have. Sorry.
Sorry, Rodrigo, say.
Just a friendly reminder that you have 13 minutes.
Oh, okay, no problem. Okay, thanks. So here we have this. We have the website. Let's see here. Yeah, this is better. We have the website running here, and let's explore a few things. First, let's review that call that I previously said. So this is the call that the rendering host is doing to the CD server, and here we can see the JSON that's being returned to the rendering host, right? And then on the rendering host, of course, you would see the page being rendering, everything looking very nice, all the components here. Let's explore this services page. So in this example, we have also here. And as we are navigating the website, here we can see. I mean, I will run this command here. This example is running on Docker, so this is what you end up doing. So in this window here, we are seeing the Sitecore CLI in action. So we run the up command. So it basically creates the container for me. It started the Sitecore environment. After the Sitecore environment started, the CLI here populated the indexes, made the publish on the website, and rebuild the Sitecore indexes. And we can see all of this happening on our PowerShell screen. So I'm going to type here docker compose logs f rendering. And here with this command, as we saw in the slides, we can follow what is happening with our rendering host, right? So here we can see the JSON that returned to the rendering host, all of that. And here again, we can see the call being made. We can see the layout service, HTTP response, status code 200. It is working. So this is a pretty useful tool for you. So you can keep checking things during your development. Maybe you deployed something and you're going to have some errors. For instance, you forgot to publish. You create the fields on CSS/HTML, but you forgot to publish. So then your rendering host will start to show errors, and you don't know what to do. But if you consult the errors here in the rendering host, you'll be able to see that. So let's explore the Sitecore CM server. So when you open here the CM server, well, it's a normal Sitecore instance. We can see this project here. So first thing that we can have a review here. It's about the renderings. So Usually we'll see we'll be using like controller renderings or maybe a view rendering. But now that you have a site using a site that's headless, right? You're gonna have the JSON rendering. So this is something that you have to keep in mind. You have the component name here, and you have a little bit, some things that are a little bit different. You also have here the rendering content resolver. So at the beginning, you might be wondering where is that field that points directly to the DLL and the method. So in case you notice you don't have in this new render, the JSON render, you don't have that. So it is a new way of doing things. But it's still the idea. It is the same. You have the renderings, right? So it is using the Helix architecture. So you can see here all your renderings being in the feature. We also have the project. It's empty here, but if you had another, like the MVP source, you have some things here as well. We have the foundation, and then we have our website. It would be like a normal Sitecore website. And let's scroll a little bit. In this website, it's a pretty small website. We have a products and a service pages. In here, and the product list, it is a bucket. You're used to that already. So let's open the bucket and see our list of products there. So as you can see, the templates, same way you're used to work with Sitecore. You have a template, you have the fields as well. I will open the presentation details here on the home. Kind of same thing we are used to as well. We have the data source. So a lot of things won't change. And well, from this website, I guess that is it. I think the product list should be working as well, because we had the rebuild of the indexes. Yeah, we can see all the products here. In case your CLI fails to rebuild the index, you may not be able to see the product list. But yeah, I guess that's it. I have just 4 more minutes, right, Rodrigo? 5 minutes.
Yes, 5 minutes.
Okay, so let me
There's
try
one
to
question. There's one question if you...
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. How does Sitecore map the rendering to its code now in JSS rendering, in JSON rendering?
Yeah, in the code, there is, I can try to show to you in the code, but it is by name, and on your code here, you need to register the component. That's the concept. So you have a component. In this case, I think it is accordion something, and then you're gonna register that, and then Sitecore will be able to track that. So here, I'm open the Visual Studio so we can have an idea of how the solution looks like. We can see, for instance, this. Let's get this like navigation. We have this base company.feature.navigation.platform, and let's check the properties. So here we are seeing that this target framework, it is .NET Framework 4.8, but you're maybe a question, but where is the .NET Core code, right? So here in this project, you will have the one that will be deployed, that's being done, and will be deployed to the .NET Core server. So that's what I told about the mixed solution. So you're gonna have code that's gonna one will be deployed to your CMCD service, right? It is .NET Framework, but the other DLL will be compiled in .NET Core, and this one, it will be deployed to the rendering servers, to the rendering host server. So that's the difference that you must keep in mind. And the project has this organization, and by looking to the project, you clearly can see the difference here. So here we see this one that ends with like platform. It is the one that you are used to do it, and it will be deployed on the CMCD. And the one that ends with rendering, it tells you that this will go to the rendering host, right? So your time is we're short of time, so I guess that's it for the demo then. So go back to the presentation, and this step by step, it is available also on my blog, and soon I will be also covering the other few examples if you want to set up the MVP website. And well, thank you very much for your time, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And I guess that's it. Thank you all.
Thank you, José. Very good, buddy. Thanks.
Welcome.